Hi, good morning, everybody. Hey, it is Firearms Friday. I hope, because that's what I set the show up for today. Who knows? It could be Thursday. I may not have had enough sleep. No. So, Friday it is. Good morning, everybody. I hope y'all are ready to get into some firearms news. I see Stryker. Stryker says, yo, half an hour ago. It's like he was just trying to take a swing at that first blood. And hey, brother, you got it. Gonna be some changes coming up, guys. There's Rumble just put out a new feature where I can go directly from OBS into Rumble. I haven't had time to play with it yet to see how it works, but hopefully that'll mean soon we'll see how the integration works. But I'm excited about it because hopefully it'll mean we get to go back to the intros with a nice fade in and things like the top comment badges, the DRT and all those badges. But on that, as far as things like the DRTs, the DOTs, and the BRM badges that we drop in there from time to time on the individual DGUs. So for one, I've picked up a lot of new viewers recently. So let me tell you, when we get into the jargon on DGUs, I mean, DGU is jargon itself. So that's a defensive gun use. So when we talk about a DGU, what we're talking about is the lawful use of a firearm in the process of armed self-defense, where a citizen has a justified reason to employ up to and including deadly force in the defense of self or others in fear of death or great bodily harm, right? And so that's what Friday is about. We do DGUs and we do gun news. Now, with that, as of late, there have just not been as many DGUs in the news as there had been for the last several years. I don't know what's going on exactly. Maybe people are just doing better and not committing as many wanton acts of violence and crime that they need to be put down by a lawful citizen who would otherwise be a victim, because the Donald is doing such a great job. Hey, remember just a couple weeks ago, like, oh, it's the apocalypse, the economy's going to crash, it's going to be Black Tuesday or Black Thursday or Black October, blah 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 blah. Yeah, totally recovered. As of 2 days ago, everything that they said we were going to lose, totally recovered. Now that doesn't mean we're going to stay there forever, but hey, Patrick says we could use some DRTs today. But like I was saying, the news on DGUs is a little thin right now. I've got a couple, but before we get into some DGUs, like I said, many of the things I like to talk about on the show are, we'll cover gun news as well. And the big topic in gun news right now is this one. Bills lifting a ban on so-called silencers and short-barreled rifles stall in U.S. House. So there's a push right now to remove suppressors. I hate the word silencers. It screws up people's brains. So let me clarify for any of you out there that aren't just gear queer, gun-toting, right-wing nut jobs like this guy, and I'm not the same kind of gun nut as your buddies out there. Patrick knows, Steve knows, Seaver knows this, Mario knows this. These guys are read in hard on all the current firearms. Basically what's the current hot model. They know the designers, the makers, all that stuff. They know the Gucci's and whatnot of the gun world, and they talk about the design and comfort and function differences of that. I'm not a gun magazine guy, right? I'm a strap-on 21 magazines of 5.56 and go eliminate the enemy for the Constitution guy. So we've got some guys that are constant viewers and frequent guests of the show that are very hard read in on things like the difference between the Colt 45 and the Smith and Wesson equivalent, and why is Heckler and Koch the best gun in the world? It's not. But they are good. Don't get it twisted. I love me some Heckler and Koch. I'm a big fan of the MP9 and MP7 for practical tactical applications. Just saying, those Krauts know how to stack bodies, as long as they don't have to deal with Americans coming across, because we mean it. My expertise and specialization is more in what you put behind the gun, in what it takes to make the weapon do the work. And so when I hear him talk about silencers, I know that the vast majority of Americans, especially, and people around the world generally, but especially Americans, as soon as you hear silencer, you think about a movie with a mob hitman or a political assassin, and he comes in and he's got his black gloves. He pulls his black gloves on very carefully and cinches them down between the fingers, and then he pulls out a slick-looking little pistol, maybe a Walther PPK, and he screws a can on the end of it, right? And he takes that shot, and it goes, it's whisper quiet. Because he doesn't want to wake up the wife that's sleeping in the same bed right next to the victim. He's going to put three in the chest, like a little kiss, like a little fête fatale. That is not what a silencer does. That's why they're suppressors, not silencers. A suppressor knocks a big chunk of the blasting sound off of that weapon. A suppressor is not a tactical item. You're not screwing a can onto the end of your firearm and sneaking around in a house and killing people without alerting the rest of the occupants to the activity. A suppressor is a safety item. What it's really for is for when you're training, right? And you can use them in the field, and it does knock the noise off. So, the guys that are 2 or 3 kilometers away may not know that you're raiding one of their other little FOBs, little forward operating base posts, whatever, right? But what it's really for is it's a safety mechanism. It knocks off just enough of the sound where you still need cans, you still need headphones or earplugs or something to be truly and properly safe, but you're protecting your hearing. Let me tell you something, guys. In case you're not tracking on this already, that's worth doing, because a good set of hearing aids like this that I have to have conversations with people, like these are why I'm still married, right? And they cost about $5,000 per ear. Okay? So take care of your ears, guys. And that's why that right there is why the suppressor it's so important that suppressors be removed from the NFA, from the NFA list, right? Right now, you've got to get a tax stamp and go through a waiting process and order and application, blah, 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 because it's a firearm. It's not a firearm. That is not a firearm. Okay? It goes into a firearm, but it requires a firearm to be useful. So this was one of the big deals about Chevron deference being overturned and stricken down by the court a few years ago. At the wheel says, I have a silencer on my motorcycle. No one even knows I started it. Danny says, just saying yes, dear, wasn't cutting it. Yeah, Danny, we have a code in my house. If I don't have my ears in for whatever reason, and the wife says something and I don't hear it, I just say, I love you too, babe. And she understands that means I'm deaf. And I don't know that she asked me to take out the trash. But the way that Chevron deference, one of the ways that Chevron deference was a huge problem is that the ATF would basically say, oh, well, XYZ is a firearm. An upper receiver not installed on a lower receiver is listed as a firearm. The individual parts of firearms are listed as firearms. That's psychotic. That's nonsensical. It's incoherent and it doesn't follow, right? And then, of course, they call it the short and shush bill, or the shush and short. So Sergeant Major points out, we should note the ATF ignored the SCOTUS ruling on Chevron deference. They did, and there have been no consequences for that, and that's another issue that we're going to have to deal with separately. The other one that they're trying to do, short barrel rifles are listed on the NFA. And a short barreled rifle, we're talking about, we're talking about that one on the far left there. The one with the brown furniture on it, with the kind of desert sand furniture on it. That rifle is. So if I pick the rifle up and handle it, YouTube's going to kick me off. Let me see if I can. Okay, I've got all these damn remotes for the. There it is. I found it. So let's see. I can. There's that, and then boo 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 boo. There. See, if I pick the rifle up while we're on YouTube, they'll throw us right off. But you can look there, and you can see these two right here have that shorter barrel on them, and basically the shorter barrel is kind of the preferred architecture for home defense, right? So you don't want too much barrel length when you're dealing with home defense. Let's be fair, room clearing. It's got great tactical application. You don't want to. You don't want to try to clear rooms with a Barrett M99 Snow Wolf because, well, they kind of see you coming around the corner, right? You'll hear us use the phrase flagging. Yeah, you flag the corner, you come around. They see the rifle and they're like, oh, well, I know his head's going to be about 6 to 8 inches above that, so just wait for it. No. I mean, if you can clear houses with a Barrett, you just do it from outside. It'll get the job done. But that's we want the short barrel rifles, the SBRs, off the NFA as well, because they're great for home defense. As far as tactical applications, nobody cares if they're listed on or off the NFA for the purposes of tactical application, because you're either a soldier or a criminal. Neither of these people cares if the law cares about civilians having firearms, right? The government's going to give it to a soldier. And, oh, that's right, Fast and the Furious. If you're a criminal, just wait for the next Obama and he'll give you free guns too. Wait for the next Democrat. And as long as you're not an American citizen, they love to give you fucking guns. So where we're at on that right now is bills that would lift restrictions on firearm suppressors as well as short barrel rifles and shotguns were stalled in a U.S. House committee this week, leaving gun rights advocates livid. Hell yeah, we're livid. We've waited how long for these shitburgers to take an action that was in favor of our constitutional rights? I've said it before and I'll say it again. Shall not be infringed. Okay, that doesn't just mean the government will not take your guns, the government will not disarm you. Shall not be infringed. That means that if a law mentions firearms in any way, that law is an abomination. It is anathema to the Constitution. Right? A violent crime committed with a gun is not a more serious crime than a violent crime committed with a different type of weapon. People get hung up on the gun. If you've never seen somebody who got blown up on an IED or with IDF, then my friends, congratulations. I mean, holy shit. Oh. Yeah. If you've ever had to deal with the aftermath of a firefight, let me just say, people who have been shot with a 5.56 round or a 7.62 round are much easier to carry to a helicopter in one trip than a guy that's been hit with, say, an 88 millimeter recoilless fired like a fucking mortar, because Afghanis are too stupid to learn. Sorry, I let my head went a little down a rabbit hole there. I get frustrated when I talk about Congress dealing with our rights, dealing with especially our Second Amendment rights, because I know that there are people there like Dan Crenshaw who have seen combat and still had the unmitigated temerity, like a fucking coward, to vote for red flag laws. And then to go out and make this psychotic argument. Well, we had to vote for it because that's the only way you can get it into committee so that we can argue about it. No. It doesn't need to go into committee to argue about it. It's not hard, Danny boy. If it's a law that restricts in any way my right to keep and bear arms, you shoot it the fuck down. No excuses, no exceptions. It doesn't need to be argued in committee. It doesn't even need to be considered. Yeah. So, guys, I apologize. I get frustrated about this. I do. There's a reason I live in the middle of nowhere, and I keep a little ammo on hand. Just a little. for those of you that are paying close attention, that box on the bottom is empty. just well, it's not empty. It's got like machine parts in it, but it does not include. It does not, in fact, contain the 40 millimeter grenades that it was originally packed with. No worries. That one's empty. I emptied that box into a small village in Afghanistan fucking 14 years ago. It's been empty for a while. Jay says, yep, it's nice out here, Chris. Hell yeah, it is. By the way, just Jay, I know you recently started watching the show. You were not one of our habitual viewers, back 2 years ago when we lived. We used to live in Conyers off the golf course, and before I moved out here and before Dad bought his farm out in Milledgeville, we lived right next to each other. Like my mom and Dad lived right next door to us, and Dad would occasionally just let himself into the studio in the middle of the show, and he'd bring mom would bake fresh pound cake or something, or muffins, and Sergeant Major would just let himself in the studio in the middle of the show and bring me baked goods. I'm not saying you got to come with baked goods, Jay, but you're close by enough, brother. If you ever want to just drop in and hop in the second chair here, you're welcome to it. It'll be a lot of fun. And in fact, Jay, I highly encourage you. You should do exactly that. Drop in, say hi, talk about whatever it is we're talking about that morning, and plug the Sunset Shop, where I need to drop by and see you at the Sunset Shop from time to time, because coffee. Sergeant Major says I just finished cooking breakfast. You don't have to bring food, Jay, but I won't say no. It's kind of what I do. So yeah, the Republicans in the House basically shit the bed and gave it up. And they let the bill stall out in the House. So they're still working on it. Last night on Timcast, they had a rep on to talk about the bill, and he said they're still pushing it. They're trying to sneak something into the into the big beautiful bill, but of course that has also been stalled. And we talk a lot about the dangers of the evil Democrats on this channel, because let's be real, the Democrat is evil. The Democrat Party is the party of slavery and child trafficking and abuse and dismemberment and abortion. Okay? But the Republican Party is almost worse. Because let me tell you something. When things matter, a well-intentioned coward is a really serious threat. When I can see the enemy, I can recognize the enemy, and I can prepare for the enemy. And I know what the enemy is. I have intelligence. And I don't just mean that when I say that, I'm not saying, well, I'm smart. I am, but I have intelligence, information, data, actionable intelligence on the nature and the strategies and the tactics and the logistics of my enemy and their operations. I can work and plan and strategize and prepare to deal with that, to combat an enemy. But when my allies, when the guy that's supposed to have my back suddenly isn't there, I've just been exposed to additional threats. And a coward can be bought by the enemy. And rather than leaving your back exposed, he can become that threat because he's a coward. Right? Dante told us the lowest circles of hell are reserved for traitors and mutineers. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, okay, guys, I'm going to have to put a pin in it pretty shortly. So I got one. Yeah. I've got one DGU. Let's see if it's any good. Homeowner fatally shoots intruder armed with axe in Dublin County. Dublin. I wonder, wait, where is this one? I just have Dublin County. State. Okay, North Carolina. I had to squint at it. right there in the center of the sheriff's badge. It says North Carolina. A man was fatally shot by a homeowner after Dublin County authorities say he was attempting to break into the homeowner's residence with an axe. The Dublin County Sheriff's Office responded to a Sheffield Road home on Sunday morning, May 11th, where they say they found David Bradley White lying on... where they say they found David Bradley White, the man's name, lying on his back at the bottom of some steps with multiple gunshot wounds. White was pronounced dead at the scene, per officials. Okay, I was talking about the jargon earlier. DRT, DOT, BRM. DRT, dead right there. DOT would be dead over there. That's if, they take him to the hospital and they die in the hospital. And the BRM is basic rifle marksmanship, as in the shooter needs to go take some training. Because if you have to use your firearm in a self-defense situation, if you're forced to use your firearm in a self-defense situation, you will not be treated more gently after shooting somebody if they survive by the law. Dead men don't get to testify against you in court and claim that they weren't trying to mug you or whatever it was. Right? Dead men don't come after you with lawsuits over wrongful death, negligent injury, et cetera, et cetera. They don't get to muddy up the waters in the investigation by making a, he said, she said argument. No. Center mass and enough to matter. Get it done. Oh, and dead men don't cost the state nearly as much money to house. According to a release, the residents of the home were confronted by a man armed with an axe trying to enter their home through the back door. And in response, the homeowners fired multiple shots through the door, striking the intruder. Authorities say that an axe was located along with other weapons near White's body, as well as damage to the back door. The homeowners, mommy and daddy, opened fire. I like that. Whew. I ain't gonna lie. I could fantasize just a little bit about the wife and I having somebody break in. The kids are at mom and dad's house, swimming in the pool, spending the night. So my lady and I can have a little time together. I got a glass of whiskey. She's got a glass of wine. Right, we're watching something that we can't watch with the kids. Yeah, and not a dirty movie, something like one of the Deadpool movies. That's the kind of thing we do when the kids aren't here, right? Having got maybe a little antipasta spread, maybe some dark chocolate, right? Door smashes open, and we're both, ah! Get her. Fuck yeah. Get her done. Oh, man. There's a show called Resident Alien. Alan Tudyk, brilliant actor and comedian. There's a scene in the show. There's this couple, the kind of effeminate mayor and his smoking hot young wife. And they've got a little boy, and the little boy's got a friend. So there's the four of them in the house, and the men in black, the two kind of corrupt government agents, come, and they try to grab the kids because the kids know about the alien. And like all through the series to this point, there's clearly been some problems in the marriage with the mayor and his hot young wife. Their eyes are starting to wander, and they're starting to have some problems. But these two agents come in to try to grab the kids, and the mayor and his wife go to work with like frying pans and floor lamps, or whatever they could put their hands on. They knock the gun out of the agent's hand, and they beat 16 flavors of bloody out of these two agents. And then all of a sudden, the kids need to hide their eyes because it's like that moment right there. The couple is just like, oh, just energized, and they are headed straight upstairs together. And it's made very clear that they're headed straight upstairs because the kids are in the house. Otherwise, it would have just been right there on the floor. Great scene, great premise, and it actually becomes like a running gag for several episodes that every time, like the sheriff comes around to ask them for their statement on what happened, and they start to describe the story, and then all of a sudden it's get a room time again. It's fucking hilarious. Great show. Resident Alien. Check it out. Frankly, the whole series was worth it just for that story arc between the mayor and his wife, let alone the rest of the brilliant acting by Alan Tudyk. But that's as soon as it said the homeowners, that's what I thought. That's what I thought right there. Right there's a dead body at the bottom of the steps, and I'm working on getting my belt buckle undone. There we go. And let me tell you something, guys. This is this might be I'm going to dip my toe and risk just a little TMI. If you've never put your thumbs on a butterfly, I'm gonna let that hang out there for just a minute, because some of you know exactly what I mean when I say that, and some of you have no idea. So give it just a second. If you've never put your thumbs on a butterfly, all right. Deuce, the 50 caliber machine gun that we mount on our tanks and trucks, and the Mark 19 especially. Those two guns especially. Mark 19 is basically a Deuce that shoots 40 millimeter grenades instead of 50 caliber bullets, right? So Deuce shoots these. The Mark 19 shoots Coke cans with high explosive charge. So it's the difference between and if you've never put your thumbs on a butterfly, you're not going to understand. But I guarantee if you get the opportunity and you take it, you get to grab those two broom handles and you squeeze your thumbs down on that butterfly. The very first time you do it, you will be harder than Chinese algebra. And every time you come out of a gunfight, a real gunfight, I promise you, unless it breaks your psyche, there will only be one thing on your mind after that. It's a special kind of opportunity. I promise you that. So let me see. I was looking at a couple of comments there. I didn't just straight Max Headroom freeze. You must try the hot pistachio. Okay. Megan and Patrick are talking about seeing movies. And Megan's quoting the preacher. Excellent. Okay. So guys, I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in it there because I got to be in Lawrenceville at 11 o'clock this morning. So Sergeant Major, I know you're watching. As of yesterday, I didn't have anything on the calendar. I got one added last night. I got to go to Lawrenceville and shoot a huge package on a huge house. So I'm going to be there for a couple of hours. I should still be at the farm for dinner. But that, and then the other little bit of housekeeping. Right after the show, once I get down the road, I'm going to do a little bit of an experiment while I'm driving. I got a new microphone to plug into my phone that's supposed to be extremely good at noise cancellation. And so I'm going to try running a brief live stream. This will be on Rumble only because it's just an experiment for the audio. I'll go live for a few minutes while I'm driving so that I can go back and a little later and listen to the quality of the audio. So if y'all see me pop up live in a half hour or so, you're welcome to watch. In fact, if you have a moment and can help a brother out, pop on while I'm live. Leave a couple of comments in the chat. Leave a couple of comments under the video about the sound quality, about what you're hearing, whether or not you can understand what I'm saying while I'm driving and talking. Because if that works in my loud ass old pickup truck, when the new Expedition gets here in a few days, that's a much quieter vehicle. And if I can figure it out, and I think I've got it figured out, I'm going to try mounting an external camera. Or hopefully what I can do is while I'm driving, I can live stream while I'm driving and show you, be showing the road with my head as a picture-in-picture of the lower quarter and talk about some of the news stuff while I'm driving, if we can get the technology to work. A lot of the time, obviously a lot of the time driving in the country, the internet service just isn't going to be sufficient to support a stream, but there are some places where, the gorgeous countryside meets 5G coverage. And there, I think if I can get the technology all working in the same direction, we could do something properly beautiful. So it's Friday. Y'all be safe out there, guys. Patrick says that I don't see, maybe. No, I think it was Patrick. I think it was Penny going out to check on the chickens. So it's Friday. You guys be safe out there. I love you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll have the 9 o'clock deep dive tomorrow evening. And no, I have not yet announced what tomorrow's show is about. So y'all be safe. Again, we love you. We'll see you tomorrow.